Break the board sports. It's your boy RJ Cash here. We're going to break down the mid college football games. Click that like for us. Again, this is all to help you become a better handicapper and give you trends, angles. Every once in a while, we'll give you a lean. We do have picks you can buy at breaktheboardsports.com, but actually, what's more important to us is to help you become a better handicapper. If you go to breaktheboardsports.com, you have that notes blog section you can click on. We got notes on all the games. Right now, we're going to focus on 5. Let's get into the first one here. And again, we did one earlier for the 12 o'clock games. We're going to get into the 3:30 midday games, 3:30 to 5 o'clock ones. Let's start it off as we update the lines here. We use FanDuel to go off of. Like to thank them. USC and Purdue. USC laying 21.5. Your over-under sets at 59.5 in this one. Right now, if you look at USC, 5-1 ATS their last 6 games overall compared to Purdue, 3-10 ATS their last 13 games. New head coach Barry Odom comes in from UNLV, trying to turn that program around. Now, obviously, let's just be real. It's going to take him a little bit of time. Purdue 1-6 ATS their last 7 games at home, 10-11 straight up their last 13 overall. The under is ticked 4 of the last 6 games that they have played. When you look over at Purdue with the quarterback and their roster and what they got going on, 8 returning starters, 5 on offense, 3 on defense. Again, a lot of transfers following Odom from his time at UNLV. USC's got 16 returning starters in their program with Lincoln Riley, 9 offense, 7 defense, including their young quarterback, Jaden Maeva. So listen, for USC, again, they got to be able to run the football. They've struggled with that at times in the past. Right now, if you look at the betting splits and just update them at this point in time, a lot of money going to the USC way. That line came down to 20.5. It's back up to 21.5. So we've seen a little bit of buyback. 63% and 63% of bets, 73% of handle on the Trojans, 37% of bets, 27% of money on the Purdue Boilermakers there. When you look at this one, I think you got to go with the home team, Purdue. Look, Purdue can't score with USC. That's obvious. And USC, Lincoln Riley talked about in his presser this week, got to get back to running the football, right? Got to get back to grinding games out and setting up the play action pass. For Purdue, they got to play a much slower style of offense than USC does, right? So, again, I expected Purdue to try to drag this one into the mud if they're going to keep it close, especially if they're going to cover that 21.5. There is a couple 20.5 still out there, but I look at this and I just say, okay, Purdue's got to drag them into the mud, again, to stay within that 3 touchdowns. Not a whole lot of resistance for Purdue. They started out with Ball State in Southern Illinois, so not good competition. And the same thing goes for USC. I mean, they put up 73 on Missouri State, 59 on Georgia Southern. Better competition than Purdue has faced. But again, this is an on-the-road game. I think once you get into conference play, I say this all the time, right? College football or college basketball, going on the road is the hardest thing to do in getting a win, even if you're playing an inferior opponent, which obviously doesn't take a rocket science to figure out. USC is a better football team. That's why they're laying 3 touchdowns and a hook. But I just think Purdue can keep this one close. Again, they're going to have to grind it out, play a really good defensive game, but we'll see where they fall in that. Again, I got 2 puppies, so if you ever hear barking in the background, it's probably either the mailman or Amazon. So just be ready for that. The Backyard Brawl, Pittsburgh, West Virginia. Boy, is this going to be a fun one. Right now, when you look at the updated lines on FanDuel, Pittsburgh laying 7.5 in Morgantown. I've been to this game before. Boy, is it a treat. One of those things you got to go to. But right now, Pittsburgh laying 7.5. You're over under 56.5, minus 110 both ways. They met last year in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh got the win 38-34 at home. West Virginia got them the year before, 17-6 in Morgantown. And the year before that in Pittsburgh, 2022, 38-31 Pittsburgh. So 3 straight years they played. Before that, you got to go all the way back to 2011. So not a real good trend. You can only really use the past 3 years, in which the past 3 years, this game has been decided by 7, 11, and 4. The year it was decided by 11 was in Morgantown when West Virginia got the outright win. Now, West Virginia has hit the first quarter game total under 7 of their last 11 games. If you had been following that trend, you'd be up 3.7 units, a 29% return on your investment. Consequently, Pittsburgh, first half, not first quarter, first half over for the game. They went over 4 of their last 5 on the road, 2.85 units, 51% return on your investment. West Virginia, 8-5 to the over their last 13 games. That would have put you up 2.5 units, only about 17% return on your investment that you would get there. So not life-changing by no means. When you dive in a little bit deeper into this West Virginia and West Virginia hosting Pittsburgh matchup, Pittsburgh 2-4 against the spread the last 6 versus the Mountaineers. Pittsburgh, despite getting that win last week, 2-6 straight up their last 8 games. The total has gone over 6 of West Virginia's last 9 games overall. West Virginia, the last 6 times that they've welcomed the Panthers of Pittsburgh to their backyard for the Backyard Brawl rivalry, West Virginia 5-1 straight up. Also, against the ACC, the last 7 times for Pittsburgh, 6-1 against the spread. So they've been a covering machine. Right now, when you look at the betting splits, Pittsburgh's grabbing 57% of bets, 43% of bets going to the Mountaineers right now. And when you look at the handle, 63% to the Pittsburgh Panthers, 37% of the handle. So the money going towards Pittsburgh's way, you would imagine, unless you're in like West Virginia there, Hollywood Casino, Charlestown, places like that, they're going to need Pittsburgh. But right now, late on a Friday afternoon, it's looking like the books are going to need West Virginia. So the books need West Virginia. I got a home dog getting over a touchdown that is 5-1 straight up against a team in their own backyard. Kind of like my chances there. West Virginia is the lean for sure. 54% of the bets, 51% of the handle to the over. Remember, that over 55.5 at DraftKings, 56.5 at BetMGM and FanDuel. So shop around. Again, one thing about helping you become a better handicapper, not just throwing out these angles and trends and all that, but you need to have multiple betting outlets, right? You can't get married to one book. By doing that, you get caught into lines that can really, really, really hinder you and squeeze you. You never want to be squeezed by the book. They got enough advantage. We can't have them getting any more than what they already got. That is for sure. Next game I want to hit on, let's hit on Oregon State next week. They got the Civil War against Oregon, but an even bigger game for Texas Tech. Oregon State at Texas Tech. Texas Tech laying 23.5 to the Beavers. 61.5 is the total. When you look at it right now, Texas Tech, the books are going to need Oregon State. 80% of bets and 84% of the money is on the Red Raiders of Texas Tech as they bring back more starters than anybody in the country. 21 return against Oregon State. Oregon State getting 20% of bets, 16% of the handle. When you look at the over-under, 61% of the bets to the over, 65% of the handle to the over in this one. Texas Tech, they got a bigger – we just talked about Oregon State's got the Civil War next week against Oregon. But look, Texas Tech, their biggest game of the year next week at Utah. Utah and Texas Tech have clearly separated themselves as the 2 best teams in the Big 12 at this moment. Oregon State, 2-8 against the spread their last 10, 1-9 straight up their last 9, 1-5 straight up their last 6 on the road. Texas Tech, 4-1 ATS their last 5. They've been covering these huge spreads, and the total has gone over 5 straight games that Texas Tech has played at home. To me, I think it's pretty clear in this one. I'm not a guy that wants to lay over 3 touchdowns, but the lean here has definitely got to be Texas Tech. I think they get in there, take care of business, and get out. Oregon State's offense has sputtered. It has looked inept at times. They haven't been able to move the ball, and they haven't quite honestly, I mean, Fresno State, not that Fresno State's a bad program, but Fresno State's not, they're down from what they normally are. And last week I leaned Oregon State, and I got to tell you, I was really, really disappointed. They just didn't perform in the way I thought they were going to. Again, they could not get out of their own way to save their life. It just wasn't a good showing at all. And for that reason, I think you lay it with Texas Tech, or you just get totally away from the game. Two more to go down here in the betting midday betting section. And let's start with one, the South Florida Bulls. Two big upsets. Now, I gave that out both weeks. We had South Florida against Boise State. They won outright. We had South Florida catching points against Florida. They won outright. Makes us look like heroes, but I got to tell you, this team has played great. Byron Brown has played great, but they're going into a whole different beast right now. A whole different beast. The Miami Hurricanes, I'm sure Mario Cristobal is going to screw this up somewhere along the line. That's just what he does. He screws things up. But top to bottom, when I watched the speed of Miami against my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, I was amazed. I was like, whoa, this Miami team looks like the Miami team when I was a kid. Like, Carson Beck looked great. The speed Miami played with was amazing. How they hit on defense was amazing. I think that, here's the thing, South Florida's first two wins isn't to the level of competition they're about to see. Again, they're on the road for the second straight week. Emotional win at Florida. And here's the thing, I know the line is high, 17.5, but Miami, they're not going to be surprised about South Florida at all. It's not going to creep up on their radar. Now, Miami 2-4 ATS their last 6. But straight up, Miami 12-3 their last 15. When these two teams have hooked up, the under has cashed 5 of the last 7 head-to-head. They've played the last 6 times. South Florida 1-5 against the spread their last 6 times when playing Miami. Again, Carson Beckett and company, I think they're going to be able to move the ball at will. Now, these two teams used to play every year, but since 2013, they only played one time. That was last year. So think about this. Last year in South Florida, Miami, 50-15, a 35-point thrashing. Now, this Miami team, way better. This quarterback Miami has, I mean, this guy's a Heisman candidate. They didn't have no Heisman candidate last year. Miami is poised. Miami wins this game. I think 17.5. I would much rather have 16.5 for sure. If you could find a 16.5, I think that's something you could hang your hat on and feel comfortable about. But you're going to have to find that or a 17. I think 17.5, again, a little too dicey for my taste. Now, if you always are looking for things to money line parlay, I think Miami gets off to a fast start. They're minus 340 for the first quarter. Miami in the first quarter has won that 9 of their last 11 games. From an ROI standpoint, only 7%, but you'd be up 7.4 units. South Florida overall, 8-5 their last 13 games. That puts you up 7.95 units. The over is cashed. 5 of South Florida's last 7 games put you up 2.8 units, 36% ROI. My fear here with that 56.5, I think there's a really good chance Miami could put the vice grips on South Florida and you not see a lot of scoring from South Florida. However, Miami, they've hit the over 8 of their last 13 games, put you up 3.6 units. Again, Miami, I'm not a huge fan of doing anything with the money line. It's minus 750. But if you want to get exotic, do you a little 3-team parlay or something, Miami's definitely got to be one of the dance partners. They win this game. I don't think there's any kind of a scare like Florida had getting upset. South Florida, I think this game's easily 14 points. Whether Miami covers the 17.5, again, that's a big number. But I think Miami cruises in this one. I don't think there's much resistance from South Florida. It'll just be a matter of, is this a 14-point game, a 17-point game, or does Miami really stretch it out to like 4 touchdowns because they get some turnovers? They start out with some great field position and whatnot. That'll really be the test, see where it goes. Last game we're going to touch on, and you know where we're going, baby. We're going to Neyland Stadium. That place is going to be rocking. Gunnar Stockton, Kirby Smart, and the Georgia Bulldogs come into Tennessee barking against the Volunteers and the Little Bigel. So, Georgia, this one's been all over the place. 4.5, down to 4, down to 3.5, back to 4. Right now, depending on where you shop for your shoes, and again, shop around no matter what side you want. Right now, Georgia laying 4.5, comeback or over under 49.5, juiced minus 118 to the over, minus 104 to the under. We know the kind of world we live in these days. You get juiced both ways anymore. Money line, Georgia minus 180, comeback plus 150 for the Vols of Tennessee. Now, these two teams, SEC foes, they hook up all the time. Last year in Georgia, Georgia won 31-17. Georgia has been able to reel off 8 straight versus Tennessee, 8 straight. In those 8 meetings, pretty astounding to say this, but that 14-point game last year, other than 2022 being a 14-point game, is the closest Tennessee's ever come. And you can make the argument Tennessee's roster was way better last year. Georgia's defense, still Georgia's defense. Got better receivers. Gunnar Stockton's really the key here. And Georgia hasn't played anybody, right? They had Marshall. They had Austin Peay. They haven't really played anybody, so they haven't showed a lot. The offense has been very vanilla. Tennessee, they put on East Tennessee State, obviously. But they really struggled the first game of the year in the Georgia Dome. Tennessee really struggled with Syracuse. Syracuse kind of hung around for a little bit. That surprised me. It surprised me that Syracuse was able to score on Tennessee's defense. Now, look, Neyland's a special place. If you've never been there, it's a bucket list. Special place. That crowd is going to be in it to win it, especially if they can come out and get a stop on the first drive or get a touchdown, something like that. But like I said, other than that 31-17 last year and 27-13 scores back in 2022, let's list off the scores just in Tennessee. So the past couple games when these two teams have hooked up in Tennessee, 2023, Georgia, 38-10. All right. 2021, Georgia, 41-17. 2019, Georgia, 43-14. 2017, Georgia, 41-0. When Tennessee finally got the Bulldogs, you got to go all the way back to 2015, and even that was 37-31. I say all that to say, listen, we just talked about Miami in that money line parlay. Little Miami, Georgia action gets you down around like $1.15. I'd take that, laugh myself all the way to the bank. I played it. My biggest play of the week. I don't want to fool with the points. Tennessee has not showed up in this game in the last 8 years. I don't expect them to now. I'll ride Georgia. I think they're holding back a little bit, and I think they win. Now, whether they win by 3, 4, 7, 14, that I don't know. I could see this game going a myriad of different ways. The only thing I can't see is at the end, the Vols getting a win like they did against Alabama at home a couple years ago. I don't see that. Tennessee, 4-1 ATS their last 5 games. The over is cashed 6 straight for Tennessee. Tennessee, 14-3 straight up their last 17. When these two teams hook up head-to-head, the over is cashed 9 of the last 13, so 9-4 record to the over head-to-head. Georgia, they're not very much for covering. Again, that's another reason why I say I like the money line parlay with Miami, because Georgia, though they're 6-1 their last 6 games and 6-0 ATS their last 6 versus Tennessee, they're just 1-5 ATS their last 6 overall. That gives me a little bit of pause for concern. Not a fan of that. Georgia and Tennessee, the first half over under 24.5. Georgia has hit that 10 of the last 14 games. I think that's a solid bet. I really don't see a lot of points being scored in this one. I lean under. Again, I think Georgia's defense is a lot for Aguilar in Tennessee. I don't see that coming to fruition. Now, for the game, we talked about that. Tennessee's hit the game total over 8 of the last 13. Georgia has hit the under, though, 4 of their last 5 on the road. Again, shop around for that over-under. You can find a 51 here offshore, but it's mainly 50.5, 49.5 at FanDuel, 50.5 at DraftKings. So you gotta be selective about where you're going on that one. But again, I think this game is one of the 3 best games that you're going to see on Saturday. Georgia at Tennessee. I love the Georgia-Miami parlay. I also love West Virginia getting 7 in the hook. Listen, Backyard Brawl, last time they were there, the last 3 years is what you really go off of. Neither team has won by more than 4 except West Virginia. They're the one that won at home in Morgantown. But even in Pittsburgh, West Virginia's put up a better fight. Rich Rod back in action. These two teams hate each other. I think you're going to see a great game. We're going to have the PM games, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, along with the rest of your nighttime games, LSU, Florida, and the Chomping Gapers. Can Billy Napier get out of the firing squad there? Because if he loses this one, it's donezo. We're going to be breaking down those 2 games and a couple more in the late slot and another short. Click that like, hit subscribe. We're here every day. Some days we put out multiple shorts, but we're here every day for MLB baseball. BreakTheBoardSports.com. Go to the website, BreakTheBoardSports.com. Last weekend, 24-9 in football. You can get all those plays for the week for just $30 or for $1.37 a day, get 365 days a year. BreakTheBoardSports.com, where we help you become a better handicapper. God bless and have